We're in the middle of a series that surveys what a Charlotte Mason education looks like through the different grade levels and how each level solidly prepares your student for the challenges of the next one. So far, we've looked at the preschool and elementary years. If you missed either of those episodes, check the show notes for a link. Today, we want to dive into middle school, and I'll show you how this level gradually and effectively bridges what was done in the elementary years and what will be expected in high school. Welcome to the Simply Charlotte Mason podcast. I'm Sonia Schaefer. Different people have different conceptions of what middle school includes, so let's clarify what we're talking about here. For purposes of this episode, middle school will refer to grades 5 through 8. Now, when we left our student in 4th grade in the previous episode, he was beginning to read some of his school books for himself. In middle school, he will incrementally progress to doing more independent reading and with more difficult and longer books. Whereas in 4th grade, he was studying and writing up to 1 sentence for dictation, over the 4 years of middle school, he will gradually increase to writing up to 2 paragraphs for dictation. In 4th grade, he was still doing mainly oral narrations and writing 1 narration per week, either in narrative style or expository style. Now that challenge will level up over these 4 years to writing 2 and then 3 narrations per week, and those narrations will also begin to include descriptive style narrations. Now, let me say something about the purpose of those narrations at this point. While the main purpose is to help your student assimilate the knowledge from the Good Living books and ideas, those daily narrations are also laying a foundation for composition. Formal composition will come in high school, and we'll talk more about that next time. But you need to understand that there are basically 2 components to good writing. One is developing your own writing voice, and the other is adjusting that writing to a specific form or structure. Now, of those 2 components, by far the hardest one is finding and developing your own writing voice. It doesn't take long to learn a certain form, but having something to say and saying it well requires a lot of time and input and practice. And that's what narration helps your student do, especially during middle school. So your goal with these written narrations during these years is not to correct style and form. It is to create an atmosphere in which your student feels comfortable and encouraged to find and develop his own voice as a person of equal value and immense possibilities. There are several ways to help him with that growth in using language well, and they are integrated into Charlotte Mason Middle School studies. One is to continue his study of English grammar and expand it to include sentence analysis, which helps him see how the order of words can affect clear communication. And of course, he will continue to grow as he reads the works of several excellent authors over a good variety of living books. And another way is through introducing a book of mottos or a commonplace book. This personal journal gives him an opportunity to record lines from his reading that stood out to him, favorite poems, or a particular expression or a turn of phrase that he liked. By the way, do you see how Charlotte Mason methods are equipping this young person to be able to continue learning for himself over his whole lifetime? Reading for yourself, narrating what you have read, either orally or in writing, recording favorite lines from those readings into a personal journal. These tools can be used by any adult to keep learning for himself. I love how Charlotte's methods have that self-education in view, and how they're so seamlessly woven into the student's days that they become habits and equip him to continue learning for the rest of his life. Another great step toward that self-education is making the transition to an individual book of centuries during the middle school years. A book of centuries is basically a timeline in a book. We introduced one during the elementary years, but we did it all together as a family. The middle school years are a great time to increase the challenge, now that your student has seen how it's done, and make it his own responsibility to keep his own book of centuries, entering people and events from his history and geography, science, Bible, and literature readings, as well as the poets and artists and composers that you study together. Other subjects are also leveled up. More map work is scheduled in geography. Longer poems are assigned for memorizing and reciting each term. And that foreign language that was studied by hearing and speaking in the elementary years now adds in reading and writing. Plus, if you want to, you can begin a second foreign language through hearing and speaking during the middle school years. In math, your student will study percentages, fractions, and ratios, and add a practical introduction to geometry through hands-on exploration 1 day a week during 5th and 6th grades. During 7th and 8th, he will progress to pre-algebra and an introduction to proof-based geometry, all while continuing arithmetic review through rapid and interesting mental math sessions. In fact, during grades 7 and 8, as he approaches high school, other studies will increase in challenge too. He'll begin to study current events, looking at several opinions and seeking to understand all sides of the issues. In Bible lessons, he will begin more in-depth studies and discussions and begin to learn how to study the Bible for himself. He'll begin to study Latin and transition to more in-depth science courses. And for his personal development, he will continue building good habits, but also add a study about all of the components that make up a person. He'll begin to grow in his relation with knowing himself, exploring both the possibilities and potential weaknesses inherent in all persons. The lessons increase from a maximum of 30 minutes in grades 5 and 6 to a maximum of 45 minutes in grades 7 and 8. And the week's work is nicely balanced to include enrichment from picture study, music study, poetry, hymn study, handcrafts, nature study, Shakespeare, and art instruction. With focused attention and the habit of best effort, your middle school student is still done with his lessons by lunchtime. In 5th and 6th grades, it takes about 2.5 hours, while in 7th and 8th grades, it increases to about 3 hours per day. So, picture it now. At the end of middle school, your 8th grade student is standing on the threshold of high school and solidly ready for the increased challenge that it will bring. He's writing narrations almost every day, digging into longer and more difficult excellent books, gaining practice in the tools of self-education, and expanding his personal knowledge of God, of mankind, and of the universe around him, and of himself through history, geography, Bible, science, math, poetry, grammar, dictation, nature study, Shakespeare, foreign language, art, music, literature, and more. It is truly a broad and generous education with high expectations in high school. But the beauty of it is that your student has been well prepared for that challenge by incrementally leveling up through the grades. That's a Charlotte Mason education. If you would like help with any of the subjects mentioned in today's episode, or any of the previous episodes, check the show notes for links. Simply Charlotte Mason has resources that make it simple to give your student this wonderful kind of education. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.